Article 514.8 of the National Electrical Code, or NEC, specifically addresses the requirements for electrical components installed underground, particularly focusing on their suitability for wet locations. This section mandates that conduits, fittings, boxes, and enclosures installed underground must be listed for use in wet locations. The critical aspect of this regulation is its broad applicability, as it encompasses all such components regardless of whether they are situated in a Class 1 Division 1 hazardous location or not. This means that any electrical component installed underground must meet the stringent requirements for wet location use, ensuring durability and safety in potentially damp or submerged environments. The rationale behind this requirement is to mitigate the risks associated with moisture ingress, which can lead to corrosion, electrical faults, and potentially hazardous conditions. By mandating the use of listed components, the NEC aims to ensure that these installations can withstand the challenges posed by underground conditions, maintaining their integrity and functionality over time. However, Article 514.8b introduces an exception to this rule, providing a specific scenario where sealing conduits can be an acceptable alternative to using wet location-listed components. This exception states that conduits emerging from the ground must be sealed to prevent the entrance of rain and moisture. The primary purpose of this exception is to address the point where conduits transition from an underground environment to an above-ground one, which is a common entry point for water and other contaminants. By sealing these conduits, the NEC aims to prevent moisture from entering the system, thereby protecting the electrical components within. It is important to note that this exception is narrowly tailored to apply only to conduits that emerge from the ground. It does not extend to conduits that are installed entirely underground, which must still comply with the requirement for wet location listing. The distinction between these two scenarios is crucial for ensuring code compliance. For example, a rigid coupling at a factory bent 90 installed in a turbine sump, if not emerging from the ground, would need to be listed for use in wet locations to meet the requirements of Article 514.8a. Understanding the specific requirements and exceptions outlined in Article 514.8 is essential for electrical contractors and inspectors to ensure that underground electrical installations are safe, reliable, and compliant with the NEC. The NEC provides further guidance in Article 500, which defines and classifies hazardous locations. These locations are categorized based on the type of hazardous material present, such as gases, vapors, dust, or fibers, and the likelihood of their presence in ignitable concentrations. Class 1 locations specifically involve flammable gases or vapors that may be present in the air in sufficient quantities to produce explosive or ignitable mixtures. Division 1 locations are those where the hazardous material is present continuously, intermittently, or periodically under normal operating conditions. Division 2 locations are those where the hazardous material is present only under abnormal conditions, such as equipment failure or accidental release. Article 514 provides additional requirements specific to motor fuel dispensing facilities. These requirements address the unique hazards associated with these facilities, such as the presence of flammable liquids and vapors. The article covers various aspects of electrical installations, including wiring methods, equipment selection, and grounding to ensure the safety of personnel and property. Article 514.3 outlines the general wiring requirements for Class 1 locations in motor fuel dispensing facilities. It mandates that all wiring and equipment installed in these locations must comply with the applicable provisions of Article 500, as well as any additional requirements specified in Article 514. This ensures that the electrical systems are designed and installed to minimize the risk of ignition in the presence of flammable substances. Article 514.8 specifically addresses underground wiring. It stipulates that all underground wiring must be installed in rigid metal conduit, intermediate metal conduit, or rigid non-metallic conduit. These wiring methods provide physical protection for the conductors and help to prevent damage from moisture, corrosion, and other environmental factors. Additionally, the conduit must be sealed at both ends to prevent the entrance of water and vapors, further enhancing the safety and reliability of the installation. CO fittings are used to prevent the passage of gases, vapors, or flames through a conduit system. They are required in Class 1 Division 1 and Division 2 locations to minimize the risk of explosions. The NEC specifies the types of CO fittings that are permitted for use in these locations, as well as the installation requirements. Typically, CO fittings consist of a housing filled with a sealing compound that hardens to form a gas-tight barrier. The sealing compound must be compatible with the hazardous materials present in the location. Intrinsically safe systems are another method of protection used at hazardous locations. These systems are designed to limit the amount of energy available in the electrical circuit to a level that is below the ignition energy of the hazardous material. Intrinsically safe circuits are typically used for instrumentation and control systems, where the power requirements are low. The NEC provides detailed requirements for the design, installation, and maintenance of intrinsically safe systems. These requirements ensure that the systems are properly protected and that the risk of ignition is minimized. Grounding is a critical aspect of electrical safety, particularly in hazardous locations. Proper grounding helps to prevent the buildup of static electricity, which can be a source of ignition. It also provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which can trip a circuit breaker or fuse and to energize the circuit. The NEC specifies the grounding requirements for various types of equipment and wiring systems in hazardous locations. These requirements include the use of grounding electrodes, bonding conductors, and ground fault protection devices. Regular inspections and maintenance are essential for ensuring the continued safety of electrical installations in hazardous locations. The NEC requires that these installations be inspected and tested periodically to verify that they are in compliance with the code and that they are functioning properly. Any deficiencies identified during the inspection must be corrected promptly to prevent potential hazards. Understanding these requirements is essential for electrical contractors, engineers, and inspectors who work in motor fuel dispensing facilities and other hazardous locations. By following the NEC guidelines and best practices, it is possible to design, install, and maintain electrical systems that are safe, reliable, and compliant with the code. Remember that electrical codes are subject to change. It is important to consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes or regulations before beginning any electrical work. Additionally, it is recommended to seek guidance from a qualified electrical inspector or engineer if you have any questions or concerns about code compliance. Wet locations, as defined by the NEC, are areas where moisture is present continuously or intermittently. These locations can be subject to condensation, dampness, or submersion in water or other liquids. Examples of wet locations include underground installations, car washes, and outdoor areas exposed to the weather. The NEC specifies the types of electrical equipment and wiring methods that are permitted for use in wet locations. These requirements are designed to ensure that the equipment is protected from moisture and corrosion, and that the risk of electrical shock is minimized. Equipment that is listed for use in wet locations is typically constructed with corrosion-resistant materials and sealed to prevent the entrance of water. Wiring methods that are approved for wet locations include liquid-tight flexible metal conduit, liquid-tight flexible non-metallic conduit, and direct burial cable. These wiring methods provide a waterproof barrier that protects the conductors from moisture. In addition to using appropriate equipment and wiring methods, it is important to take other precautions to protect electrical installations in wet locations. This may include providing adequate drainage to prevent water from accumulating around the equipment, using corrosion-resistant hardware and fittings, and applying a protective coating to exposed metal surfaces. Regular inspections and maintenance are also essential for ensuring the continued safety and reliability of electrical installations in wet locations. It is important to check for signs of corrosion, moisture damage, and other problems, and to correct any deficiencies promptly. The NEC provides detailed guidance on the requirements for electrical installations in wet locations. It is important to consult the NEC and any applicable local codes or regulations before beginning any electrical work in these areas. Additionally, it is recommended to seek guidance from a qualified electrical inspector or engineer if you have any questions or concerns about code compliance. Electrical safety is of paramount importance in all electrical installations, but it is especially critical in hazardous locations and wet locations. By following the NEC guidelines and best practices, it is possible to design, install, and maintain electrical systems that are safe, reliable, and compliant with the code. This helps to protect personnel and property from the hazards associated with electricity.